Hey guys, welcome to Brian's Man Cave. So I've decided to do another one of my chat while I play type of dealios, and I thought, what's a good topic to think about, to talk about right now, and so I thought, the PlayStation Classic seems to be the big thing right now. Everybody's kind of talking about it. So hold on here, I'm just and get my screen ready so I can actually see things. I don't know how I ended up on the wrong page there. Here we go. It's kind of lost. But yeah, I thought this would be an interesting topic because it just kind of hit. And I wasn't expecting this. I thought this was something that was going to come out much later. Because, the whole NES Classic came out. We all know about that. We all know the crap that everybody went through with that, and Nintendo not stocking up, and then we had the SNES Classic, which popped up, and that is what kind of told us, okay, there's gonna be a pattern here. But we also had the Atari flashbacks, which came out way earlier. Obviously, those didn't create an impact, I guess, like the NES did. I guess people aren't as excited about the Atari coming back. Maybe it's a generation thing. Maybe it's just maybe it's a popularity thing. But we had that. We had a ColecoVision. We had the Intellivision. We had a bunch of other systems that came back. Plus, we had obviously the Raspberry Pis and all that other stuff, and several plug-and-play style systems. So it's kind of interesting where we're going right now in that these kind of retro systems are coming back, and it kind of makes sense. And I think that there's a lot to talk about here, because outside of the games that are on these systems, the price, how you hook them up, their HD, all these other things, I think it opens up a lot of interesting topics. So I thought maybe we should talk about this while I play some Dragon Warrior, because I'm thinking, I don't want to just have my face on the screen, so it's kind of fun to have something else going on at the same time. I'm just gonna work on that. Yeah. Okay. So in the chat we have Mr. Toon, which he was here about half an hour early. So praise Mr. Toon for coming in so early. We have Nostalgic for the 70s and 80s that was in here. I don't know if he's still in here. Mike M. Garcia, if I'm saying that right, Team Optimus. So we got a few people in here, and yeah, I would just like to kind of have that as the topic of discussion while I play this game, because it just makes it a little bit more fun to do this, and rather than just doing a straight-on chat of the PlayStation, because it's interesting. Like for me, PlayStation was a system that came out, I guess, to me it's more like the first real disc system for me. I know there was ones before, like I believe Sega Saturn maybe came before it. There was even like the GameCube. I don't know. There was a few that were kind of coming out all around the same time. But from my experience, like I played on my Nintendo. I didn't get a Super Nintendo until much later. And then I ended up getting an SNES at some point, but then the PlayStation was out, and I didn't buy it. I didn't want it for a long time. Actually, I didn't want the PlayStation until the I don't know, a few years in to its release, they started to re-release it at a cheaper price, and I thought, at this point, why not? I wanted to play games like Tomb Raider and stuff, so I ended up picking one up. And so I still have the one I bought, my original PlayStation 1, I still have that. And then the PlayStation 2 came out, and again, I didn't jump on it. I waited a long time before the price came down, and it was on a whim. It was like literally walking through the mall. There was an electronics store, and they had a PS2 for sale, and I thought, that might be cool. And so I just, on a whim, literally picked it up, and started, I kind of put my PlayStation 1 away because it's backwards compatible, which was what I always thought was cool about the system. None of the Nintendos seemed to do that, right? You had the Nintendo Entertainment System, which had, you know, their big square cartridges, and then you had the Super Nintendo, which had the smaller, you know, I think I got one right here. You know, the Super Nintendo, you know, half the size of a Nintendo cartridge, and then you had the Nintendo 64, which kind of had that rounded cartridge, kind of keeping on the same size. And none of these were backwards compatible, so it kind of forced you to always have to buy the next system, and then you'd always have to buy the new games, which that was what appealed to me about the PlayStation 2, was the fact that, hey, I could still play my PlayStation games on it, plus I could buy all these awesome new games that came out. Now, I just actually, and this kind of happened before the news broke, too, about the PlayStation. I did a video on this. I got the missile command from Grumpy Bears Plays, another YouTuber who sent this to me, and I was like, hey, here's another excuse for me to actually bust out my PlayStation. If you've been watching my channel and you've been watching the content that I've been doing, most of the stuff that I've been doing is pretty much Nintendo and beneath. So like Atari, Intellivision, ColecoVision, Sega Master System, Sega Genesis. I haven't actually touched my PlayStation. A lot of people probably don't even realize I have one. So, yeah. So this was another. You know, this was cool. And the fact that it's a classic, like it's an Atari classic, it blends right into what I've been doing, right? But I do have my little thing here, which is full of PlayStation games. PlayStation 1 and 2. I sort of bought both of them. So let's jump in. Atari 400. Yeah. I've been playing a lot of that lately. I'm starting to really love the Atari 400. Well, the Atari 8-bit system. I mean, they all pretty much play the same. So I'm playing my Dragon Warrior game. I started this a while ago. I did a live play of it a while ago, but I'm kind of in that grind phase, so it's kind of boring. So this is a good game to play while I'm kind of chatting, because I'm just going to be wandering around fighting slimes. So nostalgic for the 70s and 80s. I don't want to hear any more mini consoles until the Atari 5200 Mini is coming out. That's interesting that you say that, because like the flashback, if you look at the Atari flashback, the first one that came out, the very first Atari flashback that came out, I believe it looked like the Atari 7800. And it had a lot of Atari 7800 games on it, and 2600 games on it. Then the second one that came out went after the 2600 look. And so, I don't know if it was the same system, or same company that made it, or if that's when AtGames took over. And then you would think that logically they would go with the 5200. Now I think the problem with that is that the 5200 is, I mean, a lot of the games, they're gonna have a hard time getting the rights to them. Like you have Pac-Man and Q*bert and Pitfall, and you know, a lot of the traditional arcade classics, which were not necessarily owned by Atari. Looks like we got Green Lantern HD in the chat. How's it going? I got my C64, PS3, paid off my PS4 at the same time. Well, that's the other thing. There was also a Commodore 64 Classic Mini that came out as well, which has kind of been circulating the news. So we also have a Computer Classic. So it kind of seems like, you know, the PlayStation Classic is going in that same direction of, you know, we need to get a box out there that plays some of the traditional games on the system and just a regular plug and play. Hey, Atari 2600 dude, what's going on, man? And Virgo Smith. Yeah, so I just thought I would do a topic today and talk about the PlayStation, well, whatever they're calling it, classic, mini, whatever they want to call it. Because, yeah, I've been seeing it a lot. I didn't actually do any kind of video on it. I was like kind of watching everybody else's video, although most people were just kind of giving their reaction on it, the whole thing, and, you know, talking about the games that are going to be on it. They've released a certain number of games. I don't know if more information has been released on it or not. Whether they're actually, they've actually released the full list. In my opinion, when I looked at the list of games, I thought when I saw Final Fantasy VII, they were done. I mean, they could have just put that out, and people would have bought that machine. Because that's like the popular, I think, one of the more popular games of the system, right? Is the Final Fantasy VII. So when people talk about PlayStation, that's what they talk about. Now, I often get confused between PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2, and what certain games were released on. Man, I'm dying by a slime. This is bad. It's embarrassing. When I started playing this Dragon Warrior game on my live stream, I don't think I spent a lot of time, so I didn't get too far. So I gotta get healed here. Pretty quick. I'll go to the inn. I think that's where I get healed. Do you think... Mr. Toon's saying, do you think Atari would have reached the height of success it did without Namco? Well, that's a good question. I mean, the thing about Atari is, like, they did flourish on a lot of other companies' games. Activision being one of them. I mean, if it wasn't for Activision, who knows what would have happened to Atari. If Atari stayed as Atari and just started with just putting out games like you know, they had a few gems. Like they had Yar's Revenge, you know. They had you know, anything pretty much Howard Scott Warshaw put his name on. Even E.T. being that, you know, it's notoriously bad to a lot of people, but the game is actually quite successful and did put Atari on the map. But there was a lot of other gaming companies that were building games specifically for Atari. And this is where emulation becomes a problem, because Atari can only legally I should say, put on the games that were built by their brand. So when they get into games like Activision, there's a licensing thing that has to happen. Who owns the game? And so the Activision, or the Atari Flashback 8, the latest one that just came out, has Activision games on it. I believe even the second one, or one of them also had Activision games on it. But, I mean, Activision was so closely related to Atari, it's not the same as Namco or like Nintendo, like with Donkey Kong, for instance. Like if they wanted to make, you know, a game, like having an Atari with a Donkey Kong game on it would be really hard today, because Nintendo owns that license, right? So when Nintendo puts out their Nintendo Mini Classic, they can put Donkey Kong on there, but if Atari or Intellivision or any of the other systems that had a Donkey Kong game on them tries to put a Donkey Kong game on their classic system, they're going to have to pay a lot of money. And even if they get the rights to do it. Nostalgic for the 70s and 80s is saying after the Atari 5200, all other consoles were made by other companies for Atari. Yeah, that makes sense. Mr. Toon saying, I think both companies, Atari and Namco, needed each other. Namco had no North American distributor. They had to reach out to a company like Atari and Midway. Yeah. After the Atari 5200, all other consoles were made by, yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, and you know, with PlayStation, I'm sure with the games, like Sony had a lot to do with the games, with the designers. Although Final Fantasy, I mean, that started off on the Nintendo, right? but I guess the company that made the games moved on to the later, like the first Final Fantasy. I don't know if it was on the PC. Might have been on the PC beforehand, but I know like the first Final Fantasy was that we had in North America, anyways, was on the Nintendo, and then they started making like 2 and 3, which actually were like part 4 on the Famicom. I know it got kind of weird. So like, and then PlayStation, I guess. I don't know how all the licensing worked for that. Like, I don't know how all these games. I mean, even here, like I got this one here, PlayStation 2, Capcom, and that's Mega Man. This is all the Mega Man games. 1 to 10, I believe, or series 1 through 8, and 2 never released in the US games. And so Mega Man's an example of a game that I always attributed to the Nintendo. I never thought of this on a PlayStation. So when I first saw this on PlayStation 2, I bought it right away. I was like, really? I can play Mega Man on PlayStation? I mean, at the time, I didn't own any. I think I still don't own any Mega Man games on my actual Nintendo. Like, I did play them. I did play Mega Man 2 when I was a kid. I probably rented it or borrowed it from a friend, completed it, and gave it back. So they made Mega Man for the Game Gear. That's cool. Game Gear, that's Sega, right? And that's the other thing. Sega, well, with AT-Games, they made the Sega Flashback, the Sega Genesis Flashback, and they added a cartridge slot to it. Now, as far as I know, that's the only Flashback that has a cartridge slot. True, Namco helped develop the SDK. People cared about the poor performance of the present, so Retro was a feel-good. Yeah, so Retro obviously is striking a lot of people, and this is what I thought about the when I heard the PlayStation Classic was coming out. My first thought was, is it retro enough? Is it gonna really hit people like me? Is it like, are there people that are gonna really have that nostalgia for the PlayStation 1? Because I feel like people today, when it comes to PlayStation, it's probably going to be maybe PlayStation 2, but 3 and 4 is where people are at with PlayStation. I mean, PlayStation 1 was like the first real iteration of the three-dimensional graphics. That they tried to make them look real, tried to make it look, you know, kind of like the games of today. When you're playing a game and you're like, is this a game or a movie? Like, it doesn't feel like a game. And maybe this is why I'm kind of like out of touch with things like the PlayStation 4. Because it's just like, a lot of the games, to me, they don't feel like video games. They feel like movies. They feel like stories. They don't feel like games to me. But this is just me. I mean, this is what I grew up with, the blocky graphics. I grew up with, you know, using your imagination, essentially, to make the game fun. PlayStation was the first that had backward compatibility console. Sort of, yeah. I mean, you also have to keep in mind that, say on the Sega Genesis, they did have an expansion port where you could play Sega Master System games on it. Now, I don't know if that was officially released by Sega, or if that was a aftermarket product, but that kind of gave a backwards compatibility. I don't know if that came out after the PlayStation was released. And also with the Atari 7800 did play, or does play, the majority of the Atari 2600 games. So, the backwards compatibility is a cool feature. Hey, it's Odd Pod. What's going on, man? We're just talking about the PlayStation Classic. Just kind of giving our thoughts and opinions on it. Now, the other thing that's kind of driving me crazy about these classic systems, and I know that it seems to be a hot topic, well, two things, is price and scalping. Because when NES Classic, when they first announced the NES Classic, I was kind of excited. I thought, hey, that's cool. $50, whatever it was. I can go in, buy this thing, you know, just play some classic, just plug it right into a TV and just play a bunch of classic Nintendo games, whatever. It's not like I didn't have these games. It's not like I couldn't emulate them on my computer. It's just that I thought it was a cool, neat idea. But then when the whole scalping thing started happening, it just kind of ruined it for me. I was just like, really? Are people going to that level? But whether it was because Nintendo didn't make enough or whatever the issue was, and I know they kind of fixed it with the SNES Classic. I actually saw an SNES Classic in the store a couple weeks ago. That was the first time I've seen one of these classic systems. I've never seen an NES Classic before. But I'm not hunting them down. I'm not taking off to all the video game stores, asking if they have them. I'm not doing that. I could care less. But the fact is, I'm not walking into a store and seeing like a whole wall of them. So whether that will actually happen or not, I don't know. It's kind of a good thought to think about. And is the same thing going to happen with the PlayStation? Like, is this thing going to come out and nobody's going to see them? Nobody's going to know they exist? Scalpers, are they going to go in there and buy every single one of them and put them on eBay for $1,000? Like, if it gets released during Christmas time, right? Is that going to happen? Because to me, that just spoils the whole thing. I mean, Oddpod saying, just got back from work. I would get one if it had a little online store where you could add more games to the library, but just 20 games, nope. That's actually a good idea. I mean, I'm surprised they didn't even think of that. A way to actually legally pay for more games onto the system. Kind of like the NES Classic. Like, they didn't offer a way to add more games to the system. Now, my thought was that, for the NES Classic anyways, I really thought what they were planning on doing was they were going to release it with, what is it, how many games is on that thing? Like 30 games or something? And then they would release a second one with another 30 games, like maybe sports titles or something, and try and market it that way, like, or add an extra, you know, like the Atari Flashback. Every time they released a flashback, they tried to add a few more games onto it. So you had the flashback all the way up to the flashback 8, and so the last one, the Atari Flashback Gold, has like 120 games on it, which is like 50 or 40 or 30 more than the traditional Flashback 8. So I thought that's what they were going to do. I mean, outside of actually including an SD card reader where you can actually load the games in on yourself. That being said, it didn't take long before people started to hack the system. And I do remember that for the NES Classic, was that not long after it was released, there was tons of videos being released on YouTube on how to actually hack the system and add in a ton of ROMs. Like, pretty much add every single Nintendo game to the list. Yeah, Mr. Toon saying people are going to hack the PS1 Classic and add games just like they did with the NES and SNES. Yeah, and that's what I'm thinking. Like, if the ROMs are available, people can get the ROMs. Oops, I didn't want to go in here. If the ROMs are available and people can actually hack into this thing, are people going to do that? How much money do I have? Guess I should see what kind of weapons I have too. Under items. A torch. I got a club. No armor and no shield. The classic systems can't have a store because there's no developers for it and the licenses are too hard to track down. That's a good point. I mean, it's not going to be the same. I mean, well, Nintendo did have their, what was that thing for the virtual store? It existed for the Wii, and you were able to download Nintendo games onto your Wii. I don't know if they still have anything like it now. I think there's something like it for the Switch. I'm not really versed in the Switch. I don't have one. Mr. Toon hacked his and added a complete North American NES library. Nice. I think I just got disconnected there. Just gonna wait a minute. Just give me a minute there, just to make sure I'm back on. I think I just got disconnected there on my... There we are. I think we're back. Sorry. Technology at its finest. There we are. I think we're back. Yeah, like I was saying, I think the idea of waiting until they can hack it might be a good idea, but it's just like, you know, if they would just make ways to actually put the games on there rather than forcing us to have to do that. And it makes you wonder, like, who is this product for? Because they're saying, you know, a lot of people will say, well, why buy these things? You can get a Raspberry Pi. Or people like me who still have my original PlayStation. Is it worth it for me to buy something like this at that price point? Which is what, $100 for this PlayStation Classic? That you can't even add more games. There's no CD player, so you can't run your real games on it. Yeah, so Oddpod's doing the same thing. Not bothered by the PS1 Classic because the Raspberry Pi exists. Now there's the other thing that came out, which is like from, you know, the Retron systems, and the if you're into the Atari stuff, the Retron 77 came out and actually has a cartridge slot. Now I'm hearing a lot of negative stuff about it, but it also has the SD card reader, so you can actually load ROMs onto that. And much like I was saying earlier about the at-game Sega, which a lot of people bash, they say that the sound is crap and emulation is crap, but it does have a cartridge port, so you can actually plug in a cartridge. So, I mean, even though it's got like 90 games on it, you can still plug the cartridge in if you have the cartridge. In and out connection stream is bad quality. Uh-oh. Well, let me just take a look here. I don't know why. I know I was having some internet issues earlier. Just let me know if you're seeing issues. Lost my internet earlier today, and I don't know what was going on. Let's see here. Everything looks like it's still up and running. Yeah, it's telling me bad. Oh, we'll just keep plugging along. Hopefully people can still hear. But yeah, keep losing me. Oh man, that sucks. It's kind of weird because I've been having been doing my streams recently and I haven't been having any problems, but who knows. Now the other thing that I kind of brought up was the price. And why is this thing $100 bucks? I mean, we all know that this is an emulation device. So, where's the $100 price tag coming from? And the controllers, they're not the analog controller, or they don't have those analog sticks or whatever. I know people have been complaining about that. So I wonder what's up with that. Like, hopefully the stream's still going there. Kind of seem to be up and down here. Mr. Toon saying nostalgia is expensive. It's 150 over here in Australia. Holy cripes. That's a lot of money. I think like these nostalgia machines, if you want to call them that, these emulation machines should not be more than $50. Like even some of the Atari flashbacks, they ask too much. I think for my ColecoVision flashback and my Atari flashback, I paid about $50. And Nintendo flashback or classic or whatever it was, that's around the $50 mark. The SNES Classic, which has less games, is more money than the NES Classic, even though it's the exact same machine. Like the guts in it, the parts in it are the same. So I'm going to assume that this PlayStation Classic is the same. I mean, it's pretty much just an emulator running the games, and they try and give you these controllers that look and feel like the original PS1 controllers. So where are they getting the $100 from? Is it because, you know, is it because it's Sony? Like they, I don't get it. I guess they are just going more nostalgic as they were the first controllers. The games they put out on it will likely be the ones that came out before the analog controller came out. Yeah, well, that could make some sense. I don't know, but Final Fantasy VII, was that out before the analog controller? My problem with the PlayStation is that I didn't play too many of the games that were specific to PlayStation. Well, I had games like this. This is Harry Potter. I bought that one. I didn't play a lot of it. One of my favorite ones, though, was this one. Knockout Kings, which is a boxing game. And you get to create your own boxer and stuff like that. This was one of my favorite games. I know there was a part 2 to it. But I also bought a lot of stuff that were older style games, that, like this one. Like Tetris Plus, which is cool. This was, you know, it's like playing Tetris, essentially. Just on the PlayStation. But I also bought a lot of these ones, which is what I found myself doing. Buying this, like the Arcade's Greatest Hits. I don't know if you can see that on the camera very well. This is like the Midway Atari's Greatest Hits, so it had like Centipede on there, and I don't know what else was on there. This is collection 2. I had both collections, and most of the games I was buying were those titles, or even this one, which I believe is on the Classic, and that's Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Which is, you know, anything Castlevania, I would have bought it. I even have the Castlevania Chronicles, which is cool. This was another cool one that I bought. This is the Activision Classics, which is the Atari games that you would play on the PlayStation. So, like, that was what I spent a lot of my PlayStation days on, was playing the Classic. Uh-oh, the stream is drunk. Sorry, must be my internet connection, because everything else looked like it was running fine. So I don't know why the stream is going all nutty like that. Definitely had a lot more problems beforehand. But it always seemed like my streams were doing pretty well up until this point. But yeah, so those are the type of games that I played. So I don't know what this new... It looks like there's a lot of fighting games on there. I'm not too well versed with Final Fantasy. I didn't really play Final Fantasy. Just making sure the stream's okay. Looks like it's kind of back now. So I don't know, maybe, you know, like I said, I think when I bought my PlayStation, the one game I really wanted to play was Tomb Raider. And I do still have my Tomb Raider somewhere. I don't know where I put it, but I do still have it. And Tomb Raider was the game I really wanted. I never yet really played a Final Fantasy game. I do have them now. The original, obviously, the Nintendo one, and the Super Nintendo ones that I can play, I can stream or whatever I want to do, but I haven't actually spent any time with them. Final Fantasy VII, though, I do remember on the PlayStation seeing it in the stores and always thinking if I should buy it. It's one of those games that looked really interesting to me. I just wasn't sure if it would be way over my head of a type of game that I could enjoy. But this kind of is leading into my other thought, was that perhaps this is going to be, you know, the PlayStation Classic is going to be the future of retro gaming. Because if you think about Xbox games today, PlayStation games today, most of them, you don't just buy it, put it in the system and just start playing. You always have to download something. You always have to be updating. You have to have an internet connection. So what's going to happen 20 years down the road, where, say, the generation of today that's playing games today, like the new games of today, how are they going to be nostalgic in 20 years? Because chances are, when they plug in their Xbox 360 or whatever, Xbox One, is it going to work? Are the games going to work? Are they going to be able to play them? Definitely not going to be able to download things. So perhaps this is their only hope at reliving these games, is if these retro consoles continue to come out, right? Like, I don't know. It's in the future, so we obviously don't know, but it's kind of interesting. Or are they going to create newer machines that can play the old stuff? But again, you're not going to have those downloads, because I think from some of the stuff that I've been watching with newer games is that even on the Switch, the Nintendo Switch, people are buying them off the shelf, and the game is not playable unless you download a patch, which to me is kind of crappy. Like, it'd be like, you know, in the Atari days, if you bought a cartridge and then you came home and you plugged it into your Atari and it didn't work, and a message came up going, well, to make this game work, you have to write to Atari and they'll send you a chip that you can put in your game, and then your game will now work. Like, that would really suck. But that seems to be happening today with modern games. Could just be me, but that's my observation. Back then, when you bought a game, and you still play that game today, it's the same game. There's no changes, there's no updates, there's no, you know, all that kind of stuff. Uh-oh, fighting a ghost. Have I beaten one of these yet? I don't know if I'm strong enough. I don't want to lose. Oh, good. I think I'm already losing too much life here. Odd Pod saying his first PS1 game was Heart of Darkness. Pretty sure mine was Tomb Raider. I bought my PlayStation and Tomb Raider at the same time. And then whatever disc the PlayStation came with, which was like a demo disc or something. Probably still have that somewhere. That was my first experience with any kind of three-dimensional game. And then I realized I'm kind of terrible at them. think I'm one of those 2D players. I like Super Mario Brothers, so. But yeah, it'll be kind of interesting to see how this pans out. And I know a lot of people are talking about how it's going to be released closer to the Christmas season, which opens it up to more scalping. But is the system going to be popular enough? Are people going to want them? Is there going to be the scalping demands? Are people going to get $500 for one of these systems that they clearly picked off the shelf for, well, 100, I guess, which is the going price? I don't know. It also makes it tougher for scalpers because you got to invest all that money into it and hope that you can sell it back 2-3 fold, right? You can end up spending $200, $300, $400 buying these systems, hoping you're going to get, say, 500 each, and what if nobody wants them? So that could be a risk. The Nintendo, I mean, it was like $50, I think. A lot cheaper. Check my stream, make sure everything's going great. It's the problem when I'm playing, I can't see the health of the stream, so I don't know if I'm disconnected or anything like that. I can't tell how many people are on. There we go. Looks like I'm still there. Yeah, I'm just gonna keep building up my little character here in Dragon Warrior, which is very boring and slow, but alright, thanks Atari dude. Atari 2600 dude. Honestly, I can't tell. I can see my screen as far as the video game, and I can see the chat, but if I get disconnected, I can't tell. Unless I lose my internet connection, I can see that, but man, gold accumulation in this game is so slow. This game you're playing is Game Boy Color worthy. I myself wouldn't waste console time with this game. Yeah, this is the first Dragon Warrior that came out for the Nintendo. And was released on the Game Boy Color. I actually have that one. Is it Color or Advanced? Maybe it was Advanced. I'm trying to remember now. I do have it though, and it's Dragon Warrior 1 and 2 on the same Game Boy cartridge. And they made it better because you can progress faster. This one's very slow. This game is totally the grind. It's color. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I have it. Oh, I know I have it, so maybe it's because I was playing it on my Advance. I got halfway through. I've completed this one, and I've completed it on the Game Boy. But Dragon Warrior 2 I've never completed. That game it's pretty big. Which is probably why I've kind of avoided Final Fantasy, because I thought I'd be lost. Mr. Toon has the ROM on his phone. It's cool. Yeah, this would be a great game to play on your phone because it doesn't require any real dexterity on your, you know, you don't have to worry about the controls and all that. It's a text-based game, so the graphics are really, you know, second to the text, and the fight sequence is turn-based. It's not like playing Mario Brothers. Now another game I want to try on the, which I remember seeing it in stores and I never picked it up, and I wish I did, was Final Fantasy Adventure for the Game Boy. I do have it now for the emulator. I haven't really sat down to try it, but that might be another possibility of a game I'll play. Just as a fun adventure RPG style game. But like we said numerous times before, to hell with the touchscreen and get a Bluetooth controller. That's true. Although that does take away from the portability of it, unless you're constantly carrying around your controller with you. I think Sony like to cut costs with the large manufacturing runs. That'll be something we need to find out, like... Atari 2600, dude, have you bought any new games for your 400? Or for the 400? No, not yet. Actually, I did have somebody on Facebook. He found a bunch that he's going to be selling. And so I might buy some from him. They're like some of the more classic ones too. Like Defender and Miner 2049er. Yeah, you had a couple of good titles there. Gonna keep wandering around here, trying to make some more money. Mr. Toon has a Bluetooth controller he leaves in the car, so I can play it anywhere I go. Well, for me, like, the phone games were like, you know, when you're waiting in line somewhere, or you're in a doctor's office or somewhere where you just gotta sit down and wait. You might not necessarily be near your car. For me, oftentimes I played my phone games on the train. And when I used to take the train to go to work. And so I had a bunch of phone games on there. I think I'm gonna die. I'm gonna have to run. Eep. Uh-oh. Don't kill me. Run. I like how the whole board goes pink to remind you that you're dying. I got no heal spell. It's too early in the game. Crap, everything's coming after me at once. Maybe I can kill this guy in one shot. I think I went too high. That's the thing. You can't go very far in this game in the earlier stages because your character's just not strong enough. Everything will kill him. I don't know if I got anything from the castle, if I need to get anything. Let's just see where I go. Oops. That's another thing too, like playing the PlayStation games on your computer. I'm sure a lot of people can do that now. Actually, I even remember at one point downloading something where I was able to put PlayStation 2 games into my computer, like the actual CD, and play it on my PC. Video game Dust Sleeves, how's it going? Just want to pop in and say hi. How's it going? Yeah, we're just kind of doing a chat about the new PlayStation console that's coming out. Well, PlayStation Classic, I should say. And if it's worth it, and if people are interested in it, if they're going to buy it, and what their thoughts are. I think these people just talk about crap. I don't have any keys. I can't get in anywhere. Oh, what's that guy over there? I don't know if I can get there. No. Mr. Toon saying that N64 is overrated. Mike M. Garcia is saying that the PS1 Classic will be great. Well, I guess we're gonna have to wait and see. I wonder. I mean, my other thing is, like, most people that probably played the PlayStation 1 probably still have their PlayStation 1. I mean, and possibly the games too, right? I don't think I can go further. I mean, that's my whole thought, was that, like, I still have my original PlayStation, and I still have my PlayStation 2. And from what I understand, the PlayStation 2 and 3 are backwards compatible. I could be wrong. I know I was kind of having this chat before. But I thought PlayStation 3 can also play PlayStation 1 games. So, I don't know. Are the people who are going to be interested in this, don't they already have a PlayStation and all the games? Like, and we're talking about a system here that's only coming with 20. Alright, take care, Video Game Dust Sleeves. Thanks for dropping by. Like, the 20 games, is that going to be enough to really grab people's attention? Classic system are good for people who didn't grow up with it. My sister bought an NES Classic and my nephew is glued to it. Playing early FPS without dual analogs was interesting. Hey, Uncon Bentenil. Did I say that right? How did you hear about Sega kicking at games off? Oh, did you hear about Sega kicking at games off of the Sega Genesis Classic production? Yeah, I did hear a little bit about that, which I was wondering what happened there. Is there any kind of news as to why that happened? Was it just the quality? Because I know a lot of people were talking about the quality, and this was I think this was a joke too with the PlayStation Classic, when people were like, hopefully it's not at games that's going to make it. Because clearly the NES Classic was a Nintendo product, whereas the Sega was an at games product. And actually I remember a long time ago when the NES Classic was first announced, and I remember talking about that on I think I wrote an article, or I wrote something about it, and someone got really mad at me saying, you know, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about because it's not, like I said, you know, it's another Nintendo versus Sega war. And they got really pissed off saying that I don't know what the hell I'm talking about because this is not Nintendo versus Sega, this is Nintendo versus at games. And I guess I didn't realize that it was at games that actually made the system. But my point was still valid. I mean, it still was the brand, you know, Nintendo versus the name Sega. This guy was just being a little bit more technical and saying it's not official Sega. So the NES Classic is official Sega. And as far as I know, this this PlayStation Classic is official Sony. It's not at games or some other company creating the system on behalf of, or buying the rights to the games and creating their own system. Which is another thing. I mean, that was another thing that got really popular fast, was all these knockoff NES Classics made by these, you know, Chinese companies and stuff, that you could buy an NES, like a fake NES Classic, which took USB controllers similar to this. This is a USB controller, and had, like, you know, 200 games on it or 500 games on it, but they were all like the Japanese titles or the ROMs and stuff, and they were weird games, like weird names, like stuff like that. Yeah. Toon is saying that at games still had to get permission. Of course, someone had to own the title. Someone had to own the name, and I don't know what, like, the Sega company is doing. Like, is it still the same company? Or or is it all under new management? Kind of like Atari. Atari's still out there. They're working on their VCS, the new Atari that's come out, or that they've been crowdfunding or whatever. But it's not the same Atari as the Atari we grew up with. All new people, new management, new owners, CEO. So it's another company that bought the name and using it. So I don't know what Sega... I'm not too well versed in Sega to know what's going on with the name. Did some other company buy the rights to the name and now they own it and they can pretty much slap that name on anything they want? Or is it the original Sega company? Yes, exactly, Mr. Toon. You know, he's talking about the new Intellivision. Now, the new Intellivision is owned by a new owner, Tommy Tallarico, but a lot of the people that has working in the new Intellivision company were from the original company. So it's not like entirely ground up all new people. It's a lot of the same programmers and the same people who did work for the Intellivision, who worked for Mattel Electronics, who are now working for Intellivision Incorporated, I believe it's called. And so, even though it's going to be a brand new system from the ground up, it would be interesting if they were to actually release an official NES, or NES, an official Intellivision flashback, not the At Games one, but an actual official Intellivision one. But that's tricky because, like I was saying earlier, they're going to run into a lot of copyright issues. So they can't put all the Coleco titles on there because a lot of the Coleco titles were also Nintendo titles and other company titles. So still one of my favorite videos of yours, the Tommy Tallarico interview. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I mean, I'm still like, I can't believe I was able to do that interview. That was so much fun. And, I mean, I was so honored to be... I think I was, like, the first YouTuber to actually speak to Tommy Tallarico about the new Intellivision. Because I know beforehand he did his own Facebook Live chat, where he went on Facebook Live. But I don't think he did anything between that and my my chat with him. So I think I was the first YouTuber to actually sit there and talk about it, and some new stuff that he talked about that he didn't release, you know, information on the original chat. So that was kind of cool. I mean, the guy, he's a lot of energy. He was one of my more challenging people to speak with because he was just so passionate about what he was talking about, and it was really hard to keep the interview focused, in a sense, to ask him more questions because he really got into the discussion. And so, but I mean, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed talking with him. And hopefully afterwards, when the new information comes out in October, supposedly he's going to release more information. I think middle of October or around the 20th is when that's going to happen. So hopefully we can get some more information, and who knows, maybe I can talk about more stuff about that. I don't know, depending on what, if I can get any information. And yeah, that's true. Mr. Toon is saying that Tommy knows his stuff and he's really into gaming. He's not only there for, like, that is totally true. I mean, I can tell that he does it for the passion. He's the guy who really loved the Intellivision. He got in there when Keith Robinson was still alive, the original or the past CEO, I guess, of Intellivision. Still need more money. I need $5. Damn it. He was in there from the get-go, and he was speaking with him and getting involved in the project. And I mean, when Keith passed away, I guess that's when Tommy was like, you know what, I need to buy this company and make sure it continues on. It keeps the legacy. It doesn't just die. You know, people don't just forget it and move on. He really wanted to preserve the Intellivision and make new products, not just continue on making the same old thing over and over again, which is something he could have done. Uncon is saying that I heard they're doing an official unveiling of the console in Portland Retro Gaming. Yeah, I think that's what I heard. Was they're actually going to have, I don't know if it's going to be a prototype or if it's going to be like a demo or if it's just going to be a look and feel or if it's going to be a working model. So that'll be really interesting to see what they can do. It'd be nice to see an actual working model. But I don't know if they're even like sure what games they're going to have or if they even have games for it. Mr. Toon saying that the people behind the Coleco HD Collector Vision is a company for my... Oh, cool! You know, I was just looking into that, the Collector Vision, and that really piqued my interest, because that's like literally a ColecoVision made by this company Collector Vision that can actually run real ColecoVision carts, and it's a modern system. Thing is, though, they're trying to do pre-sales, and they want about $300, I believe, for the system to order it ahead of time. That's not going to be their final price. It's going to be a lot cheaper, but if you want to get one earlier, it's going to be about $300, and they don't come with a controller. So you have to be already a ColecoVision fan. You probably have to already have your ColecoVision. But, you know. Oh, you had a chance to speak with them, too. They're really awesome people who love gaming. Yeah, like, I believe Gamester81 is involved with them, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. It'd be cool to have them on your live chat. Yeah, that would be awesome. I don't know any of them, but who knows? I think Willie from Arcade USA also knows who they are. But yeah, I don't really know Gamester81. I've watched a lot of his shows. I used to watch him all the time. Seems like a real cool guy. And I know Willie from Arcade USA knows who he is, so he's friends with him, and possibly even some of the people from the Intellivision. Oh, that's cool, Mr. Tuner. Hey, if you know them, why not? Let them know. I'll gladly do some kind of chat with them or whatever. Collector Vision does look like a cool company, and their new Coleco system definitely piqued my interest. It's like I still have a ColecoVision, but you always have that fear in your mind that one day it's just gonna break down and you're gonna have all these games that you can't play anymore. That'd be, you know, that would suck. I mean, sure, you can try and fix them, you can try and get them repaired, or you can try and buy another one that still works. But, you know, these systems are going on 30, 40 years. And that's kind of the other thing I was going to say with PlayStation. Like, any of these disc-based systems, like PlayStation started off as a disc-based system. It's a CD. And they've been CD ever since. So, just the idea that these CDs can potentially, like, the laser inside could actually go on you. And I hear they're not easy to repair. They're not easy to repair, they're not easy to fix or replace. And things like the Xbox and the PlayStation, I've heard multiple people say that their PlayStation 3 or whatever has died on them and they had to go and get another one. Like, some people are even on their third PlayStation. And I thought, that's kind of odd. Like, is this not a sign of these systems are going to be crap in the future? Because I can, you know, buy an Atari 2600 today and still plug it in and it works. And those systems are over 40 years old. And so, well, maybe not over 40, but they're around the 40 mark, close to it. Rex Warden saying, replacing laser assemblies isn't super hard, it's just not fun to do. Like, for instance, I have a PlayStation 2 Slim that I bought at a yard sale. The guy was selling it, he had the PlayStation 2 Slim, 2 controllers, and it even had a game inside, which I don't think he realized was in there. And I paid $10 for it. And I thought, you know, this will be cool, because I have a PlayStation 2. But it's, you know, it's a big clunkier system, a big system, the PlayStation 2, and I thought this is slim. This would be nice to just kind of plug it in, and I can play my PlayStation games on a different TV. Now, when I turned it on, and I tried playing some games, I was noticing some static lines going across the screen. And I'm assuming there's something wrong with either the laser, maybe it needs to be cleaned or something, I don't know. There's definitely something wrong with the system. And I've heard this from another person too who said the same thing. So that kind of makes me wonder what the longevity is. Like, I haven't actually plugged in my PlayStation 1 in a long time. So I'm questioning if it's even going to work, because I want to do some videos. Like I said, I have this one here that I got from Grumpy Bear, and I did a video on Missile Command for the PlayStation 1, and I want to actually hook up my original PlayStation 1 and play it on there. So I'm curious to see if it's going to work. It'd be interesting to see, you know. It's been sitting for so long. I mean, I don't know why it will break, but yeah, let's see if I can go get the copper sword. This will help me kill things faster. The stream is getting drunk. Uh-oh. Am I starting to get all, buffering again? Let's see how my stream is doing. Oh, that's weird. It says it's good. Guess we're buffering. Oh boy. Saying, I'm glad you're enjoying DK Jr. on your 400. Yeah, I am still surprised how hard that game is. I think that's my other thing too. I like the NES Classic because of the types of games that are on it. You know, Donkey Kong and stuff like that. Whereas PlayStation didn't have games like that. PlayStation, I think they're missing a lot of the iconic titles. Which, I could be wrong, but like things like Nintendo, like people were asking, like, you know, will it have the same kind of power that the Nintendo Classic had? And I don't think it will. I mean, think about what NES Classic has. It has Mario Brothers, or Super Mario Brothers, Donkey Kong, Mega Man, Castlevania, like all these like brilliant titles. I believe even Zelda's on there. You know, like all these real classic titles. What does the PlayStation have? I mean, they have Spiral. Final Fantasy is not really like a Sony product. I mean, it's a brand that's I don't know. So like, what is there on PlayStation that is, you know, when you see that title, screams PlayStation? Jeff D is saying it's buffering a little. Oh, crappy. Like, that's a good question. I mean, what games do you scream PlayStation? I think of things like Twisted Metal. I remember that title. I don't even know if I have that game. I should actually see. What do I have here? That's, you know, other than the ones I showed earlier, like the Harry Potter. Oh. Interesting, I have Frogger. That's PlayStation 1. But that's an original classic title. I mean, that's nothing to do with PlayStation itself. Flintstones Bedrock Bowling. And of course I have Intellivision Classics. But again, that's nothing to do with PlayStation. That's just playing Intellivision games on the PlayStation. The NHL RPG Maker. This I bought, and I was kind of disappointed on how hard it was to actually do anything with it. I don't think I did anything with it. I think I spent a lot of money on that game and didn't get anywhere. Beast Wars for the Transformers. I remember buying this. This was pretty cool. That's for the original PlayStation right there. But again, that's not an official PlayStation title. This one was cool. Gran Turismo. Hard, though. For me it was. And I even tried using the driving style controller. The steering wheel. I did get a Spiral, though. I bought this used. You can see there's initials on there. Spiral. I think I bought this at Blockbuster or something. I don't know. Or somehow. Somebody wrote on there with their BBV initials. Which, whatever. Still the game. Still plays. Also, I got their Wheel of Fortune. That's a wrestling game. Load Runner. I think I bought this game for like $10 and I never played it, which is weird. This is also PlayStation 1. So I do have quite a few like actual just PlayStation games. Not sure where all my PlayStation 2 games are. But there's a lot of great titles, but none of them really scream out to me that that's a PlayStation game. Not like Nintendo, right? Ridge Racer and Wipeout. I believe the classic has got a bunch of fighting games that they've released. Xenogears series on PS. Never even heard of that. Of course, there's also the PlayStation Portable, which I know nothing of. Destruction Derby 2. Tekken 3. Again by Namco. So pretty much Namco was the thing. Namco makes the world go round on a lot of these systems, eh? Namco, Konami. Who's Mega Man is Capcom. That's the Mega Man. This is PlayStation 2, though. Not sure how many of these I actually played. It's got all 10, or it's got all 8 games plus 2 unreleased games, which is pretty cool. Pole Position. Now, is there a Namco Classics for the PlayStation 1? Just wondering. I guess it would also be kind of neat if this PlayStation Classic, if you were able to like plug in a external disk drive and be able to play your real PlayStation games on it. That might be kind of cool. 5 volumes on PS1. I wonder if any of the ones I have is Namco Classics. Let's Good question. Let's see, I got Midway Classics. Activision Classics. And pick up the Namco Classics. Intellivision Classics. Nope. I don't think I have any Namco. Like I said, I think that would be kind of cool. And, you know, there's a lot of external CD players. Well, I have one, an external DVD player, where I can plug that into my computer, play DVDs. So that would be kind of cool. I got that 2600 Activision PS1 also. Yeah, I got that on. I think I also have it on PC. I first actually bought it on PC, and the Intellivision one. I remember ordering the Intellivision one, the emulator game, the Intellivision Lives, long time ago. I'm talking like Windows 95 days, and I ordered it right from Blue Sky Rangers because it was not sold on shelves. Like, you had to order it from them specifically, and then they started releasing it on PlayStation, and then they released it on one of the Game Boy systems, I believe. And I believe it on the Wii too. Starting to think I have it on the Wii. Nintendo Wii. That was my problem with buying new systems. I'd always buy new systems, but then I'd buy all these games that were all classic games. So games that weren't really meant to be played on the system. Oh, musician. And I'm running low on health. Oh, geez, hurt. I'm in trouble. I'm gonna run. I'm gonna run like a little bitch. Mr. Toon's missing the Intellivision, Activision, PS1. Probably not that hard to find. I'm sure if you go to like video game conventions and stuff, you'll probably find it. And probably not for a lot of money either. I can't imagine that they'd ask a lot of money for something like the Intellivision. And I didn't mind it. The thing is the controllers, right? And that's what I like about these classic systems. Is you're gonna get closer to the real experience because of the controllers. And I know they're not being sold. The PlayStation one's not being sold with the analog, but it is being sold with a controller that is pretty much like a PlayStation controller. When you bought the NES Classic, you get something like this. You get the actual controller. Versus when you play things on a computer, unless you buy a specific controller that's going to emulate the feel of the original controller, you're missing that. And that's only if they make them. The Intellivision, there is no Intellivision controller that I'm aware of that you can buy that plugs into a PC. Now, you could probably get like conversion pieces or something to plug a real one into your computer, but that just seems kind of dumb. And actually, I do remember when I bought the Intellivision Lives CD off of Blue Sky Rangers, I did send them an email asking if they would be making an Intellivision controller that I could plug into my PC, and at the time they said no, they were not planning on making any hardware whatsoever. So, and then when they made their flashback, obviously well, I guess that was with At Games. So At Games made the hardware. They made newer controllers to fit into that system, but so at least with the these plug-and-play style classic systems, you're getting almost the same controller experience. Mr. Toon saying I'd buy a Bluetooth Coleco controller. Yep. Well, like I said, the Collector Vision from what I understand, they're not making a controller right away, so you can buy that system. You get the system itself, but you don't get a controller. Now the other thing I kind of heard too, and correct me if I'm wrong with this PlayStation Classic or whatever they're calling it, is that you don't get a power supply with it. Is that true? You don't get the HDMI cable. You don't get the power supply or something because it takes a standard one. I hope that's not true because that's pretty crappy. If you can't even plug it in. I'll ask them if they're planning on making a... I know I read that in their Q&A. Collector Vision, they have a Q&A. And people were asking that about the controller. And someone said, if you want the controller, or is there going to be a controller? And they said no. But they are not ruling out that they are not going to make one. It's just they want to get the system done properly and then focus on the controller. I don't know why. I don't know what the issue. Why you wouldn't do both at the same time? I would think that, you know, the key to a good system is a great controller. It's USB, I don't care because I already got like 20 of them. Well, I guess that's the other thing too. If they expect people probably have a lot of these things already kicking around, then chances are anybody that's going to buy it's going to have a ton of these power supplies and all other stuff. But I just think it's dumb. Like, if you're going to buy something brand new like that, I'd expect everything in the box, or everything in the box should be able to, like, allow you to play the game. You shouldn't have to, like, add your own stuff. Like, you should be able to play it right out of the box. And that includes controllers, that includes the cable to connect it to your TV, that includes the power supply. You shouldn't have to say, okay, I got this, now I have to go to the store and buy an extra cable. I mean, it's kind of like the whole issue with batteries, right? When you buy a toy or something, and then you get home and then you find out you need batteries, and it kind of sucks. Like I guess I always figure, you know, batteries are something that everybody probably has kicking around somewhere, but things like USB cables and things, not everybody always has those kicking around. Especially not power supplies. Yeah, you can, yeah, like, sure, you can go to the dollar store and buy them. Ooh, an excellent move on a slime. I don't know how far I am from the next level. I don't think it tells you in this game either. I think you have to go to, you have to go to the king. Another thing that drove you nuts about playing Dragon Warrior. You have to pay attention to the level you're on and how much experience you're in. Maybe it said it in the manual. I don't think I have the manual to this. I want to play it now. Well, I don't think it's coming out until what, Christmas? 32 points. Yeah, I'll save my game, why not? And I'll continue my quest. Oops. It's the other thing that drove me nuts about this game. When you walk on a staircase, you'd expect to go up and not have to hit a selection in the menu. Something they corrected, I think, with the Game Boy. This compilation on my PS1 Classic. Compilation discs are fun, though. And one thing I can also say about the Classic editions is portability. If you want to take them somewhere. For instance, I went on vacation in the summertime, and I brought my ColecoVision flashback with me, and I just kind of threw it in the one pouch of my luggage. We didn't go far. I mean, we stayed, pretty local, only an hour and a half away. But still, I threw it in there because I knew we had a TV, and I was able to plug it in and play, all the games that are on there. I didn't have to pack games with me, because sure, I could have brought an actual system with me, but then you gotta have all the games. So unless you have a flash card, which is the other thing you can do, or you can have a cartridge that has all the games on it. I don't have any of those for any of my systems. I've been thinking about it for Intellivision, actually. Maybe even Atari, I was thinking about it. But they are pretty pricey. Like, they're usually around the $100 range to get a cart. And what they are is they're just a cartridge that you put an SD card into, and then you load the ROMs onto the SD card, and then you put the cartridge in your system, in your real system, and you can play all the ROMs on it. So I was thinking about that for my Intellivision, but the thing is, I do have almost every single Intellivision game I want, outside of the homebrews. I got Atari Classics for my PS2, it's jam-packed with good stuff. Arcade games, 2600 games, digital manuals. Yeah, that's kind of like what I have. Manual for 26, and an interview for Mr. Bushnell. Well, that's cool. Mr. Nolan Bushnell, who I don't think really has anything to do with Nintendo Atari nowadays. I think he's out of that game. He's more of just a figure, historical figure. Mind you, Nolan Bushnell sold Atari not long after the Pong thing was done. I don't think Nolan Bushnell was in the company when the 2600 was released. Could be wrong, but from what I remember reading, he already sold the company. And the man is a legend. Well, yeah, he saw potential there. He was the one who started putting in the Pong machines and all that stuff. And he saw the video games were the way of the future. Not to mention, he started Chuck E. Cheese. I mean, he's, well, one of the guys that started Chuck E. Cheese. I think there was him and another guy, I think they started Chuck E. Cheese together. He's running a crypto scam now? Well, that's not good. One of those cryptocurrencies, the Atari coin or whatever they were calling it. Atari money. I'm a little behind on that whole cryptocurrency thing. I don't really follow any of it. If you think about it, video games practically are money nowadays. It's like I keep thinking of that meme where it's got the Nintendo, was it the guy who created Super Mario Brothers or whatever, the two Nintendo guys, and they have the picture of the Switch, and then at the bottom, or Nintendo label or Labo or whatever, and then at the bottom it just says, it prints money. Because, yeah, video games have become an expensive hobby, somehow. Like, the reason why I don't own a Switch, it's too much money. I can't afford a Switch. Like, it's just way out of my price range. And even if I had the money, I don't know if I'd want to spend it on something like that. Because I looked at it, I'm like, literally, if I wanted to buy a Switch, and at least one game, say I wanted a Switch and Breath of the Wild, the Zelda game or whatever, after taxes and everything, I'd be looking well over 500 bucks. Like, really? For a video game system? I just can't justify that. It's just way more money than I can envision myself spending. For something I'm not sure how much I would actually play, to be honest. I mean, I had the Nintendo Wii, and it was quite novel when I first bought it, but it kind of... meh. Just get a Wii U if you want to play Breath of the Wild. Yeah, that's true too. I was thinking of that. Since the Switch came out, and I know they stopped making the Wii U, would it be cheap one day to pick up a Wii U? Remember in late 70s, early 80s when they said video games are a fad and it's going to dissolve quickly and fade away? Yeah, I still remember. You can still find those things on the YouTube and stuff, where they show those old, like 60 Minutes or whatever, those old TV shows, news shows and stuff, where they're talking to like the game people and they're like, oh, this is just a fad and it's gonna die. I mean, even the video game crash didn't kill the video game industry. It's only in North America that crash happened, and it only affected certain companies. Nintendo came out of the ashes and just, boom, video games are right back where they used to be. So, didn't really do anything. I mean, video games, from the moment of conception, have just been going and going, and they're here to stay. Even today, like, there's more people playing video games than ever. And that includes people on the bus, on the train, playing with their iPads, playing with their iPhones, playing with their game, what do you call it, the DS, the Nintendo DS's and all that stuff. Sure, a lot of people are at work playing video games when the boss is not around. Another thing I'm starting to notice coming back, kind of like the classic system, is arcade units. And they're starting to make these arcade machines. There's a company, I think it's called One Up Arcades or something like that. And I hear you can buy them in like Walmart and on Amazon and stuff, and it's like a third of the size of a regular arcade cabinet. So it's like a smaller arcade cabinet, and it comes with like 3 or 4 built-in classic arcade games. So that, on top of all the mini arcades that are for sale now, you have those little mini Pac-Mans, Q*berts. So even those are starting to like come back. Mr. Toon says he plays video games with his parents. That's cool. Well, yeah, I think that's something that's going to be a little bit more common now. When I used to play video games, no adults played video games. Well, no adults that I knew, or my friends knew. Like, none of my friends' parents played video games. My mom, to this day, has never played a video game. My father, back when he was alive, he didn't play video games. So it was kind of a, you know, my stepfather, he played a little bit. Like, he grew up in the Atari days, so he played Pac-Man and stuff like that. So I remember when I was a teenager, I'd play with him, and we'd play, like, Nintendo. But he wasn't the greatest at Nintendo. He was good at the classic Atari stuff. But I think now, I mean, we're moving into that era where there's a lot of adults who do play with their kids. You're dad was working at a local arcade when he met your mom. That's pretty cool. So they're seasoned video game people. What I think of now, like I've introduced my daughter with you know, playing video games, playing classic Nintendo. Even today, we were playing Super Mario Brothers 3 and 2. You know, so it's just the time. It's the change of the times, right? So it's going to be hard to not have a parent that understands video games with this newer generation. But with our generation, I'm kind of like in the Gen X generation. It's kind of a hit and miss. I mean, I know my uncle, he played video games. So my cousin played with my uncle a lot. And back in the day, I'm talking like literally back in the day, like in television, Nintendo days. He had an Intellivision too, or Intellivision as well, I should say, not the Intellivision too. But he had the Intellivision, and he played a lot of sports titles, and he continued to do so up until like the Super Nintendo times with my cousin, his son. Hey, Emily Jensen, how's it going? Boop, 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 boo. Yeah, that sounds like the old video games to me. Just playing some games and kind of talking about the PlayStation Classic. Atari 2600 dude's asking how old I am. You're 46. Oh, I'm younger than you. I'm actually going to be turning 42 on Wednesday. This Wednesday coming up. So my mom was in computer science at school, so having parents like that, computer games, video games, was always welcome in my house. That's awesome, Mr. Toon. My mom actually, she was working in computers when I was a little bit older, but she was doing more of the mainframe stuff. Nothing to do with video games. Like she worked for the power company we have here. They had the big mainframe computers, and I remember she sometimes would take me to her work when she had to do something at nighttime or after hours, and she took me in there, and it was really weird, like going in there, because the whole room would be full of these massive machines with the big tape reels running, and the big huge computer paper, and I mean computers at that point were like that big huge mainframe stage, right? And she worked with that stuff. She didn't work on video games, so when it came to playing video games, she was just like in the left field. It just didn't happen. Even today, she's not into that stuff. My parents are early tech junkies. Emily thought I was 35. Huh. Well, hey, that's good. I'm looking younger. I know a couple times I've actually, you know, within the last year, I know I've at least been carded once or twice trying to buy booze. That's a good thing. Mike is 42. Cool. Rex is saying happy early birthday. Thanks, man. 3 more days. 3 more days. I'm still 41. Mr. Toon is 36. 37 in December. Oh, you're one of those December kids. So you got the Christmas birthday problems. I've known a few people who have birthdays in December, and I don't think any of them actually like having a birthday in December. Emily's turned 30. That's cool. Jeff is 45. 26th of December. Jeez, the day after Christmas. Boxing Day birthday, eh? So your parents could wait till the Boxing Day sales and buy you your birthday present. grew up with Atari is 40 plus. Well, I mean, that does make sense. The Atari was, 78 it came out, 78, 79, so... Geez, Emily's boyfriend is on the 24th of December. Oh man, Christmas Eve. I guess if you're anywhere near the whole Christmas time, 24, 25, 26, your birthday kind of gets washed out. I love having my B-Day on the 26th of December. I never work on that date. It's a good point. Although I did know some people who used to always take their birthday off. Like, they would always book their birthday off as a holiday. I never did that. I was like, even now, I'm going to be working on my birthday. I'm going to be going to work on the Wednesday. I'm not taking the day off. I grew up with NES, but I played some 2600 and Coleco before I got my NES. Yeah. I mean, for me, the Intellivision was my first system. Actually, probably my first experience of actually playing a video game. We got that for Christmas one year, and I don't think I had any idea what a video game was. So, hooking that thing up, it was my first real experience playing anything like it, so I had nothing to compare it to. I was too young to go to arcades. I probably was just around near the age of when you would start going to Chuck E. Cheese, and I remember playing Donkey Kong there and Pac-Man at Chuck E. Cheese. But I was still too young to be hanging out at the arcades. So the Intellivision really was my first experience with video games. So I'm sure a lot of the people who played Atari were in the same boat. It was their first system. It was their first experience playing games. Older cousins who were gamers and still are. Yeah, well, my cousin, he's a gamer. Like I said, with my uncle. My uncle had the Intellivision. I remember when I was a kid going over there. And they would be playing Intellivision. And then they moved on to the Nintendo, and then they moved on to the Super Nintendo. I don't know if my uncle really plays games anymore. Not sure. I haven't seen him in a while, but... Emily loves Pac-Man. Pac-Man's a great game. Pac-Man will always be a classic. It'll always be there. Like, even I said I was on vacation in the summer at Great Wolf Lodge, and they have an arcade there, and they have a Pac-Pot machine, which is like, all the machines now, you swipe a card, and it's all credit-based. There's no more coins. And you pay 1 credit, and you get 3 games of Pac-Man. So pretty much the first screen, if you die, you start again, you get 3 games, and then you can win tickets. But I was, like, that's usually where I gravitated towards. Pac-Man. Just to get that real arcade experience again. It had all the same sound effects and everything. The actual Pac-Man level. It was pretty cool. Yeah, Mr. Toon keeps noting that a lot of these games are by Namco. Alright, Mike. Check you later. Thanks for popping in and adding some feedback. It's always great to get some feedback. But yeah, so the topic really today was just to really talk about the PlayStation Classic. I mean, I didn't know if I was going to really talk about it too much on my channel. It's been in the news, and I thought, it's not my area expertise. I do have my PlayStation stuff, but I'm not fully versed in it. I don't play any of the modern PlayStation. Emily's saying she needs a guy that likes arcades. I kind of miss the traditional arcades. I know in the States, in America, I'm in Canada, but in America, there seems to be a lot of those classic arcades that kind of popped up. We can actually go in. Actually, my buddy James Campbell, who does Jim's Retro Zone on YouTube, he has like a video game store / arcade not far from his house. It's like, I think he said he walks there. It's like about a 40-minute walk. And they have all the plastic machines. Plus, I've also heard another. Who was it? There was somebody else I was speaking with, and they said there's an arcade not too far where they, you go in and you pay like $10, and then you can just play any of the games for an hour or something like that. Like, that sounds cool. And they're all the classic stuff, like Donkey Kong, you know, what is it, Centipede, Pole Position. Not these modern games that are more three-dimensional, or I don't know. I don't figure, like, when we go to Chuck E. Cheese, for instance, today, my daughter's had a couple of birthday parties there, or her friends have birthday parties there, and I look at the machines and I'm like, these aren't video games, these are gambling machines. These are like trying to win tickets, that's all you do. Most of them you just push a button and then you hope you win. Like, there's no games, like there's no, you don't just sit there playing on a game. Like, a lot of them are gone. The closest that looks like an actual arcade game is things like Guitar Hero, which is pretty sad. It would be awesome to do Mario Kart go-karts or bumper cars. Nintendo is making arcade games now. So that's something I'd like to see. If they could bring back or sell like a classic Nintendo arcade-style Donkey Kong, I'd love to get that. I mean, sure, I can probably track down an original Donkey Kong cabinet, but three problems with that. Price, putting it somewhere, because it would be pretty big, and maintenance. Because if the thing starts to break down, and it will, it's old, you need someone to repair it, or replace parts, or know what to do. I don't think I'm experienced enough to cross the bridge. I played Mario Kart Arcade and it's awesome. I don't know if I've ever actually played a Mario Kart game in my life, now that I'm kind of thinking about it. Mario Kart first came out in what, was it a Game Boy game first, or was it a Super Nintendo game? I think it came out a little bit later, and I never really got into it. There's a Mario Kart go-karts in Niagara Falls. You know, I think I heard of that. Like, we were just down there in Niagara Falls during the summer. We were at Great Wolf Lodge, so we didn't go much further than that. But I was hearing about something like that. Like, there was, like, go-karts and stuff. Then again, I don't know if it's on the Canadian side or the US side. And, we didn't exactly have our passports, so we couldn't exactly cross over to America. I doubt we'd be allowed to throw bananas. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be able to do that. Mr. Toon saying Niagara Falls is a 5-hour drive from my house. Canadian side. For us, it's about an hour and a half, hour and 40, depending on traffic. I live closer to Toronto, so we're not too far. It's about, you know, we just literally go around the circle, half circle, cross through Hamilton, and it's not too bad. That's why we like doing the Great Wolf Lodge trip. It's fun. It's a family place. It's close. We don't have to board a plane. And they got a lot of fun stuff there. And they have an arcade there, which is cool. You know, when the pool's all shut down, all the water slides are shut down, they have the arcade going on, and you can go and play some traditional Not enough classic games, though. They do have a Galaxian, or Galaga? Galaga? Is it Galaga or Galaxian? They have one of those machines too. You don't win any tickets from it, but it's probably the closest they have to an actual traditional arcade game. There is an arcade also in Niagara Falls, in the kind of touristy area on Clifton Hill. And they have an arcade there, but we didn't make our way down there this year. The weather was kind of shit. I mean, seriously, we were there for a week almost, like from Monday to Friday, and the weather was just kind of poor. Like on a Wednesday, we crossed the road and went to one of those the cable car things that you go across the whirlpool, and it was cold and windy, and it just didn't feel like a good day. By Thursday, it was warm, and we decided to stay at the lodge and just hang out by the pool. So we didn't get a chance to get into the actual Niagara Falls area and check out the arcade and all that stuff, but I was really hoping I would have. It would have been a lot of fun. Oops. Oh, I do have a heal spell. Somehow I forgot I had those. Oh well. I must have got it when I wasn't paying attention. Yeah, I wish we had more retro arcades though. I'd love to go to one of those. Like, I always see them on TV and stuff. I always see them on YouTube. People going to those retro arcades. I'm slightly annoyed by the monotony of this game. Yeah, that's why I thought it would be a perfect game to play while I was chatting, because there's not a lot going on. It's just not a fun enough game to play on its own. You get the small shield. Yes, got a retro arcade bar in my area. Oh, cool. Is it worth buying leather armor? Yeah, sure, why not? Got the money. Might as well spend the money. No. Got some more armor. Handle more attacks. Well, I don't think there's much more you can do in here. Yeah, you gotta find the town that sells you keys. We have an area with retro consoles and couches. Oh, neat. Now, I know I did a thing about last year. There was a person that was trying to create an arcade museum here in Canada, not too far away from me, in Cornwall. He's trying to make an arcade or a video game museum, and I did a video about it. I'm sure you can find it. If you go through my videos, you can probably find it, where I talked about what he's doing, and, or what he was planning on doing. And he actually started to, like, really build it up, but then he kind of hit a brick wall, because the, town he lives in, I guess Cornwall, or the area, they treat video games as kind of like a gaming establishment or something like that, which requires some kind of special licensing and stuff. So he really just ran into a whole bunch of red tape. Like he could not get this thing off the ground. But his idea was to be able to have all these different kinds of retro machines everywhere, almost like a museum, but also you can go in and play them. So it wasn't just to go in and look at them behind glass, but you can actually play old systems, like old Ataris and television and Coleco and all that stuff. Just play them. What's your take on Pandora boxes, Pandora key dual controller consoles? I'm not sure. I don't know if I know what that is. Mr. Toon saying, if I have a chance to come in Montreal, I'll take you to the barcade. I go there all the time with my friend. Actually, a buddy actually on my street, his daughter's friends with my daughter. He's got family in Montreal, and I think he's even talked about going to like a barcade down there. Yeah, Virgo. I don't know what the Pandora box's dual controller consoles are. Sounds interesting. It's called Arcamatili. Arcade MTL. I do remember seeing also like a conversation on Facebook about that too. People meeting up at this arcade in Montreal somewhere. I think it was different friends though. I know I can go into that tunnel. I just don't remember what's in there. Let's give it a shot. Change the scenery. Wait. The torch. I have to go one day. My girlfriend works at the new chunk. Oh, cool. Posted plenty of photo from Arcade MTL on my Facebook feed. I like the there's actually a spell in this game you can get that gives you more light. It's like a light spell or something. This is like insane. You can only see like a square above and all around you. Virgo's still asking what's the take on the Pandora boxes and key dual controller multi consoles. I don't even know what those are. That sounds interesting though. I need to look into that. I don't know if anybody else is familiar with what Virgo Smith is talking about. I'm not sure about those. Don't know what they are. Atari 2600 dude, do you still see John Zanettos? I found your YouTube channel through him. Oh, cool. Actually, yeah, that's how I started. John Zanettos was the guy I kind of reached out to in the beginning, way before I had Brian's Man Cave. I met him through Atari Age. He was posting games for sale and stuff, and I realized he lived not too far from me. And I started talking with him, and I said, you know, he kind of had this business where he was trying to, you know, it was called tablet. Three items were needed to reach the Isle of Dragons, which is south of Quebec. Lots of reading there. Yeah, so I reached out to him and I asked him if he would like to do kind of like a partnership on his, for the Man Cave Cinema, which is what he created. And my role was originally just going to be kind of like the creative person. Because I realized like a lot of what he was doing was cool. He just didn't have the, he didn't have the graphics or anything. He didn't have the concepts or some of the ideas. He was kind of lacking in. And I thought, I can help him with that. So I spoke with him. He's only about 20 minutes away from where I lived, half an hour. And so yeah, we started the Man Cave Cinema, and as we started doing some live chats, which was his idea. I wasn't really game on that one in the beginning. I thought, I couldn't do it, or I never did it before, so I was like, I wasn't too sure about it. And he convinced me, he's like, you can do it, we can do like a, well, at first it wasn't actually live, it was like we recorded it and then put it on YouTube. But yeah, and then I kind of came up, after we did that a couple times, kind of came up with the concept of Brian's Man Cave. That was really just supposed to be kind of like a section of that. Kind of like, just like a connection to it, sort of thing. It wasn't necessarily meant to be its own thing, and I was really going to be just putting Brian's Man Cave on his channel. And then at some point I realized I really should just be doing this on my own. And then he kind of decided to stop doing the whole the Man Cave Cinema thing, and he needed to focus on other things in his life, so I just kind of disconnected and went on my own. So that's kind of like the history of my channel, of how I started. It wasn't really intentional. I'm working at 6 in the morning? Ugh. I feel like I'm just going around in circles in this game. But yeah, I think that's about it. I just wanted to like I think I went a little bit longer than I expected to on this discussion. I know we went a lot off topic several times. There's only so much you can talk about the PlayStation. But that's all I wanted to do today, was just kind of have a chat about that, kind of keep the conversation sort of on that area. So if anybody's been watching this going, why aren't they talking about PlayStation? We just kind of derailed after a while there. But I think most of the conversation today was based on that kind of topic, and emulation devices in general, and just the whole nostalgia thing, and a lot of stuff that related. But yeah, I had a lot of fun on this one, and playing this monotonous game that I've been playing here. I was trying to think of another way to, play this game without boring the crap out of people, so this was kind of one way of doing it. Life Gains, brother or Uncle Lamont referred your channel. Huh. Life Gains? I'm not sure. I don't know who that is. But cool. Anyways, thanks everybody for dropping in. Thanks for the chat. We've had quite a few people in here today. And yeah, it was an interesting topic. And feel free, after this video, I should say, is done, it'll be on YouTube, and if you want to go back into the video and drop some comments in there, I'll be happy to, give some, leave some feedback and continue the conversation. And if anybody had some questions or thoughts and they wanted to throw it in there on this video, feel free to go back to the video itself after it's uploaded on YouTube and throw your thoughts in there. You could always keep the conversation going in the chat, in the comment section below. Anyways, thanks everybody for joining in. A lot of awesome people here. And yeah, I don't know if I'll be doing anything tomorrow, but definitely Tuesday I shall have my Tuesday video up. And yeah, I'll talk to everybody then. So thanks for dropping by, and I'll be stopping the stream.